for a different world, for another time. And just to recap, the days of Mashiach means the days when the Mashiach will come. Gan Eden and Gehenna is easy, heaven and hell. Olam Haba refers to the resurrection. And La'asad Lavo refers to the time when people will be living for thousands and thousands, millions of years after the Mashiach comes. It's not referring to the resurrection period. Okay. Go to your second page of your syllabus. This is it's important if you have it to look inside the text, because the second page of your syllabus is actually from the Torah itself. And this class is very easy for me to dish off right now stories from the Baal Shem Tov and Hasidic masters that have wonderful stories about them experiencing different souls from heaven, or they went up to heaven and they came back to earth with a message. That I can do, and that I may do the second class. But this class, the goal of tonight's class is to bring you texts and references from mainstream Judaism, which discusses the world to come and Gan Eden. So again, it's very easy for me to quote the Kabbalah, the Arizal, or the Maharal of Prague, who made the Golem, and discuss with you these supernatural or higher worlds. That would be easy for me tonight. What I want to do tonight is bring down the Talmud, Maimonidies, the Chumash, Rashi, basic references which lend support to the belief system that Judaism has. So Maimonides has the 13 principles of faith, and one of them is to believe in the afterlife, or one of the principles of faith is to believe in the Mashiach, or one of the principles is to believe in the resurrection, and things of that nature. Where does Maimonides get it from? Did he just wake up one morning? No, which means that this is basic Judaism and mainstream Judaism that always believed in these things. And Maimonides is one of the leaders and commentators who pulled and extracted these principles of faith that is mainstream Judaism from, let's say, other sources, like from the Chumash, from the Torah, or from the Talmud, and things like that. And that's what we're going to be doing tonight. Okay, so I'm back to sharing my screen. I'm on the second page of the syllabus. Okay, what you're looking at over here is verse 4. And this is verse 4 of Genesis. This paper that you see in front of you is verse 4, Genesis chapter 1, verse 4. And God saw that the light was good. No, verse 3. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. Right? Everyone remembers this. Let there be light, and there was light. That's verse 3. Verse 4. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God separated between the light and between the darkness. The following verses discuss the second day of creation, which is, and he created the firmament. But right now we're on the first day, and he created light. Verse 5, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and it was evening, and it was morning one day. So that's the first day of creation. Let's look at the small text, which is Rashi. He's a great French commentator. And let's see what he says. And God saw the light that it was good, and God separated. So Rashi, the great commentator, you think of him as a peer to Maimonides. And Rashi says here too, we need the words of the Agadah. We need some explanation to this. When God says the light was good and God separated the light from the darkness. So Rashi says we need a little understanding here. He saw that it was not proper for the wicked to use it, so he separated it, the light, for the righteous in the future. The English says in the future. The Hebrew says la'atid lavo, where my mouse is, la'asid lavo. La'asid lavo is one of those 5 categories we just discussed on page 1 of our syllabus, which is when the Mashiach is going to come. So again, Rashi is saying that God, he, capital H, God saw that it was not proper for the wicked to use it. What's it? It was not proper for the wicked to use it, the light. So he separated it, the light, for the righteous in the future for when the Mashiach comes. Or whenever the souls will once again, Atid Lavo, get a chance to use it. According to its simple meaning, explain it as follows. He saw it that it was good, and it was unseemly that it, the light and darkness, should serve in confusion. So he established for this one in its boundary by day, for the light, and for the one in its boundary by night. Okay, let's just do one more Rashi, and then we'll kind of break this out. Rashi on verse 5. According to the sequence of the language of the chapter, it should have been written the first day. And God created the first day, as it was written regarding the other days, the second day, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, Yom Revi'i. If you know Hebrew, the first day should have said Yom Rishon. Look where my mouse is, it says Yom Echad. One day. Why does it say one day? It should say the first day. Why does the scripture write one, asks Rashi. Because the Holy One, blessed be He, was the only one in the world on the first day. For the angels were not created until the second day. So Yom Echad, one day, is understood as the day of the only one. The only thing that existed was God. So back to me. I'm just going to pin myself. How do I pin myself? Speaker. Okay. So what Rashi here is saying at the very opening of the Chumash, this is big stuff, guys, because this is the opening of the Chumash, and Rashi right away gets into the esoteric. And Rashi says that God separated the light from the darkness. Why? Because he felt that it would be a confusion to have this light and darkness together. And he brings at the beginning of that paragraph that he saved this light for the righteous people, for La'atid Lavo, for the future. For the future, whether it's in Gan Eden, or for the future when Mashiach comes, or the days of Messiah, however you say the future is. But Rashi uses the word La'atid Lavo. So here is your first reference where we have mainstream Judaism, the Chumash, the Torah, speaking to us about La'atid Lavo in the future. And what's even greater here is, what light are we talking about? And God created the light. It couldn't have been the sun. What day was the sun created of the 6 days of creation? Yano, do you remember? It was the sixth day. It was the fourth day, excuse me. The fourth day. The first day was the light. The second day, the firmament. The third day was our world, the oceans, the trees and things like that, the vegetation. The fourth day was the sun, the moon, and the stars. The fifth day was the whales, the dolphins, the fish, and things like that. So the fourth day was the sun. So what kind of light are we talking about here on the first day? So there's a dispute in the Talmud. One opinion says the light is the sun. God created the sun on the first day, and he infused the planet on the fourth day. He gave the world the sun on the fourth day. But this sun, S-U-N, this sun already was created from the first day. That's a minority opinion. The majority opinion, including Rashi, says no. The sun was on the fourth day, as we understand the Torah. This light that we're talking about on the first day of creation was a spiritual light. And Rashi, of course, is taking that opinion because he's saying that this light should not be used by the wicked people. It should only be used by the tzaddikim. And thus he's saving this light, this spiritual light, for the tzaddikim, for the future, for La'atid Lavo, for the next world. Which now makes sense, the second paragraph that we read of Rashi, when he says, why does it say Yom Echad of one day? He shouldn't have, why didn't God say the first day? Because the first day, there was no creation. There was no sun. The only thing that existed in the solar system was God. Because even this light is a manifestation of godliness. So the only thing that existed on day one was God. So that's why God says, Yom Echad, one day, like we have the Shema, Yisrael, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Echad, one. The only thing that exists is one, is God. So that's why the first day of creation, even though God created light, but that light is godliness. which is the way the majority of opinions view this, including Rashi. And that's why it says Yom Echad, not the first day. So what we have over here is two things. One is that the Torah and Rashi believe in a future of La'atid Lavo, what we call the afterlife in English, which we'll speak about more soon. But one of the principles of our Judaism is that there is an afterlife, there is a future. What we see here isn't the only thing that exists. It's not that what we see here is meaningless. I don't like to say that our years of living on planet Earth is meaningless. That we don't say. There are some people that think that way, but this we don't think. Why don't we say it's meaningless if all we care about is the future? Because God gave us the Torah on planet Earth at Mount Sinai. So it can't be meaningless. We're studying God's Torah right now. It's meaningful. But all Judaism is saying is that this is not the only thing that exists, is what we see and what we hear. Because we also believe in this spiritual God and its light, which completely engulfed and encompassed the entire world, and all that existed was this light. Thus, when a tzaddik today, or a rebbe, or a Kabbalist, or a prophet, when they are meditating and they're trying to connect to something higher, or they're prophesizing, or they're doing a miracle, where are they accessing this power from? From this light. Now, I can't see it. I can't hear it. This is a very spiritual thing. But if you have good eyes and a good spiritual refined soul, you can access this light. So when they say the Baal Shem Tov saw from one side of the world to the other side of the world, they're not being facetious. Would you laugh would you laugh if I told you that God can see somebody in Israel and someone in Australia at the same time? Of course you wouldn't laugh. If you believe in God, that's what God can do. So if you believe in this light, and Judaism tells us that this light exists, and Rashi says this light exists, and this is a manifestation of godliness, and Rashi himself says that tzaddikim will access this light. So if this is our Judaism, the same person that told us to believe in God and the same person that says, let there be light on the first day is the same people that say so. So you have access to this light. I may not have access to this light, but I at least know this light exists. Rashi tells us that tzaddikim will have access to it when Mashiach comes, because God didn't want to put this light with the wicked people at the same time. But someone, a tzaddik that has very refined tools, he can access this light now. And that's what a prophet would do. You think a prophet woke up in the morning and there was a piece of paper under his pillow that told him what to prophesize about, whether it was Isaiah or Ezekiel and so forth. They connected on a very deep level with godliness or his light, and that's what gave him the prophecy. And that's how these people like Elijah the prophet or Elisha, they were doing miracles. They had access to this light. Okay, moving along to the next page. I'm sharing my screen because we're now on page 3 of our syllabus. Page 3, which is now the Talmud. This is chapter 11 of Talmud Sanhedrin. You see there's Sanhedrin. I'm just going to minimize this a bit. Now again, you don't need to look at the screen. So on the top right there, you see page 90A of Tractate Sanhedrin. This is straight up Talmud, okay? I'm going to read it in English. Here we go. I'm going to skip to Hebrew. All Israel has a share in the world to come. Again, there's your Hebrew words, la'olam haba. All of Israel has a share in the world to come. How does the Talmud notice say this? Again, these are rabbis that lived during the times of the temple. How can they make such a bold statement that all of Israel has a share in the world to come in the afterlife? Shenemar, because it says, as it's stated in 2 in Isaiah, and your people Israel are all righteous. That's what the Talmud tells us. Forever shall they inherit the land. So they're always going to inherit the land of Israel, because they're all righteous. The branch of my plantings, my handiwork in which to take pride. However, the following are the ones who do not have a share in the world to come. One who says that there is no reference to the resurrection of the dead in the Torah, that person will not have a share in the world to come. Or that the Torah is not from heaven, or you think Moses himself made it up in his closet, in his bedroom, then you have no share in the world to come. Or an apikoros, which is like an apostate. So these are the 3 types of categories of Jewish people that do not have a share in the world to come, but everybody else is considered tzaddikim, which means you can still be a sinner. You can still vote for the wrong president. You can still eat a cheeseburger, but you're still going to have pie in the sky. Why? Because all your people, Israel, are righteous. Done. That's it. So this is a very bold statement from the Talmud, that even if you sinned, and you sin every single day, and I know that I'm supposed to light the Shabbat candles, but I don't want to light the Shabbat candles. Or I know I'm supposed to put on tefillin, I don't want to put on the tefillin. Nonetheless, says the Talmud, everybody has a portion in the world to come, in the afterlife. How does the Talmud make such a statement? Seemingly I'm sinning. And the Talmud tells us because every single Jew from the Jewish nation is considered a tzaddik, is a righteous person. Who said that? Isaiah, he's a prophet. That's the verse reference to there. Who are the people that are not going to get pie in the sky? Is the people that don't believe in the resurrection, or that don't believe in the Torah and things like that. So again, when Maimonides has a book called The 13 Principles of Faith, and he only came 1,000 years ago, he's getting his principles of faith based off the Talmud, from a page like what I'm presenting here tonight, from Tractate Sanhedrin, which is one of the volumes of the 63 volumes of the Talmud. Chapter 11, page 90. Again, we didn't discuss the process of the soul coming down to planet Earth and leaving the body. That we could dissect maybe a little bit tonight, or for sure next week. But again, I just wanted to bring in the Roman numerals, the basic principles of our belief system in Judaism, which is that it is not like if you're very Hasidic or like you're very Orthodox, then these are the things you believe in. No, the Talmud tells it to us straight. Okay, now, page 4 of the syllabus. I'm going to go back to share screen. Page 4 of the syllabus, and all these notes there on that page. We don't have time to go through that. Okay, here we go. This is Maimonides. This page is from Maimonides in the laws of Teshuvah, in the section of Teshuvah of repentance, chapter 8. And here we go. This is Maimonides. The good that is hidden for the righteous is the life of the world to come. Again, the good that is hidden for the righteous is the life of the world to come. So a tzaddik who's living faithfully his whole life, and seemingly he's not living a very prosperous life. If, let's say, there's a tzaddik who Nebuch, he's sick, or a tzaddik that lives here in California and he died young, or a tzaddik that he doesn't have a lot of money. So Maimonides says the good that is hidden for the tzaddik, what is that good for the tzaddik? The world to come. Don't worry, said Maimonides, he will get pie in the sky. This will be life which is not accompanied by death, and good which is not accompanied by evil. The Torah alludes to this in Deuteronomy, which is a chumash, so that good will be granted you and you will live long. Live long, who are you speaking to? Let's say the tzaddik died at a young age. It's referring to la'atid lavo, in the future, for the afterlife. The oral tradition explains, so that good will be granted you in the world that is entirely good, and you will live long in the world, which is endlessly long, which is referring to the world to come. So this is a fundamental principle that Maimonides is telling us in this halacha. And again, this is not a book of Maimonides of theology or philosophy or Kabbalah. This is basic. This is basic. There's a book of halacha. The reward of the righteous is that they will merit the pleasure and take part in this good. The retribution of the wicked is that they will not merit this life, rather they will be cut off and die. Whoever does not merit this life is truly dead and will not live forever. Rather, he will be cut off in his wickedness and perish as a beast. This is the intent of the meaning of the term karet. As Numbers states, this soul shall surely be cut off. Based on the repetition of the verb, the oral tradition explains. Okay, let's skip that. Next page. This is the final page of our syllabus. This is now halacha 2 of chapter 8 of Maimonides. In the world to come, there is no body or physical form, only the souls of the righteous alone. Now, again, when he says the word righteous, Maimonides, it doesn't mean a righteous like you think of a tzaddik, like a Schwartzy or something who's a tzaddik. Even someone like you and me who sins a lot, they're also considered tzaddikim, like we just learned on that page in the Talmud, because your nation are tzaddikim. So up there's no body like the ministering angel. Since there's no physical form on the second paragraph, there is neither eating nor drinking nor any of the other bodily functions of this world like sitting, standing, sleeping, death, sadness, laughter, and the like. Thus, the sages of the previous ages declared, in the world to come, there is neither eating, drinking, nor sexual relations. Rather, the righteous will sit with their crowns on their heads and the delight and their heads and delight in the radiance of the divine presence. Now, this is important that Maimonides just shared with us, because there's other religions that say you will get 70 virgins. So Maimonides made it crystal clear, who had tension with Islam, that there is no physical corporal reality in the world to come. There's no arms, there's no legs, there's no sexual relations, there's none of those physical pleasures at all. At all. It is just so. Like he said there in the second paragraph, since there is no physical form. As we learned in the prior classes, the only person that ever went up to heaven with their body, whatever that means, was Elijah's student, Elisha, who did a lot of miracles, was Elijah, who did it in front of his student, Elisha. And even there, the Talmud is still a bit sketchy as to did his physical body really go up? It's not possible, things like that, which I don't want to revisit that subject. So it's important. The world to come that we talk about, no, there's no tefillin up there, etc. And that's one of the reasons, there's no tefillin, there's no lighting Shabbat candles. And that's one of the reasons why the Talmud hammers home to us all the time. Better is 1 hour in this world than the entire endless infinite life in the world to come. Why would they say that? Why does the Talmud say better is 1 hour in this world than the infinite life that your soul will have in the world to come? Because in this world, since God gave us the Torah and God said to put on tefillin or light the Shabbat candles, and we have a physical arm, so the physical arm can put on the leather tefillin straps, or the physical eyes can close the eyes, take the hands over the eyes and light the Shabbat candles. But you can't do that anymore in the heavens after you die. So there is a downside. There is a downside. There is, of course, an upside. A, it's endless. B, you're basking in the glory of God. It's like the billionaire's son or daughter who gets to hang out with the billionaire their whole life on private jets and butlers and chefs and things like that. It's not a bad life, but it's not really living. So that's sort of what it is up there as well. So you have free choice down here and a lot of other things that were granted and gifted by being here on planet Earth, including connecting through the Torah to God's infinite wisdom through the Torah. But there's, of course, so I mean, the discussion tonight isn't what's greater, to live down here or to live up there. I guess, like I say, there's ups and downs in either case. The Talmud tells us greater is 1 hour on planet Earth than a million years up in the heavens. Why? Because you're able to put on the tefillin down here and do and honor your parents. Up there, you can't do that. On the other hand, who wants to leave God? Who wants to leave his presence? And that's why the Kabbalah tells us that when a soul is enclosed in a body to come down to planet Earth, The soul says, no, I don't want to go. I'd rather stay up here. But hold on a minute. It's wonderful to be down here, but the soul doesn't care about what's wonderful down here. The soul wants to hang out with God. So the Kabbalah tells us we force the soul to go down to planet Earth and be enclosed in a body to do mitzvot. We actually force it. And it has its job. And the soul is told and commanded to do what's right and to be a tzaddik and to live a full life for 120 years. And after 120 years, it goes back up and it's assessed. How did it do? Either way, the soul's going to get the heavens up there. As we said, everyone's tzaddikim, everyone's righteous. Even if you sinned, so you'll go to Gehenna a little bit for a minute or two, or 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever that means. You go to purgatory. You go to see hell is for some people. They're doomed to hell. We don't have that. You get washed off, and then you go to heaven. Why? Because as we explained, everyone's tzaddikim. We're all tzaddikim, as the page of the Sanhedrin just said. I'll just finish with a cute story that there was a person that left the planet Earth or left California or America and went to a far off island. And on this island, he notices that there are diamonds all over the floor of this island. There's diamonds right when he got off by the port. There's diamonds on the road. There's diamonds in the grass. There's diamonds on the rooftops. There's diamonds everywhere. So when he goes to the first store and he wants to buy himself a lunch, he naturally goes to the floor outside where there's dirt, and he picks up 2-3 diamonds, and he hands it to the teller to buy himself lunch. And the person says, "We don't deal with diamonds here on this island. That's not the currency that we deal with." So the guy says, "What? I just finished spending 6 hours stuffing my pockets and my bags and my suitcases with diamonds. What do you mean you're not taking my 3-4? There's 3 diamonds." The guy says, "In this island, the currency is onions, not diamonds." Onions. You gotta be kidding me. He says, "Yeah, onions." So he quickly goes back out and he starts to collect onions. And he buys his lunch with a half an onion. And then this guy became very good and very savvy at accumulating onions. And he's buying and he's selling, he's doing real estate, and everything in the currency is with onions. And before you know it, he fills up his whole boat with, who knows, thousands of a whole oil container for a ship of who knows, hundreds of containers of onions. And he can't wait to go back home to show his parents and his siblings of how much wealth he accumulated. So he's heading back home, back to the port in Long Beach, California. And there's a beautiful oil tanker, and he's being waved in by his family and by all the piermen over there. And he has millions and millions of onions. He's like an onion, a lot of onions. It's smelling already from a mile away, the onions coming in. So he's so excited. He comes up, he says, "Take a look at my wealth." They say, "Mr. Meshuggah, you crazy? We sent you to accumulate diamonds. You come back with onions." He says, "Yeah, what's wrong?" He says, "Here, the currency is not onions. This is valueless to us. We wanted diamonds." So this parable explains to us the idea of our soul up in the heavens before it came down to planet Earth is a diamond. Our soul is a diamond, and it deals with diamonds. It deals with thousands of other souls. And it's hanging out with Moses and Elijah and God. It's a world glowing, sparkling with diamonds. What happens is, unfortunately, the soul comes down to planet Earth, to a place like California, and people don't care about diamonds and souls. They care about onions. They care about iPhones, or they care about their IMDb, and they care about what ratings they have on Yelp and other things like that. Just fill in the blank for yourself as to what the onions are of the day. And for 120 years, it's possible that a person who was supposed to accumulate diamonds of Torah and mitzvot all of a sudden got convinced of this new currency called onions and Instagram. Either way, we're not doomed, because when you come back up, even if you come back in a suitcase with $20 billion and thousands of shares of Tesla and everything else you got going, and other kind of onions. Thank God we have a religion that tells us we just have to clean off the schmutz of the onions or whatever else you had going over there, because va'amech kulam tzadikim, as the Talmud tells us, the Jewish nation is full of tzadikim, and as a result, everyone is going to get pie in the sky, and will get olam haba and Gan Eden and things of that nature. So we'll leave the class. We'll conclude with that. And our next class will dissect a little bit more the transition of the soul and things of that nature. So we'll stop it there. And now I'm going to open up for questions.